things guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and James Harden choking in the playoffs, especially in Game 7. I wanted to see if this was actually a reality, if James Harden was just really that type of guy that somehow could not find a way to pull it off in Game 7s. In Game 7s, he's averaging 19.3 games or points per game, 7.9 assists, and 5.7 rebounds. He also averages almost 3 steals per game. Some might say that's pretty good when you compare it to the fact that his regular season stats are that he's averaging 24 points per game, 7 assists, and 5.6 rebounds in his career regular season. The point that I'm trying to make when talking about James Harden is that yes, he gets a lot of attention when we see his downfall or the teams he's on and their downfall in Kevin's. And we try to blame it on James Harden and the major collapse. Most recently, we saw the Clippers as a whole, and yes, James Harden was on that team, of course. The Clippers collapsed to Denver in Game 7, where James Harden ended up putting up 7 points. But this is not the first time that that's happened to him. The reason that I'm bringing up his stats is because I wanted to see if it was actually an exhaustion factor for James Harden, if it was a moment too big for James Harden, or if it was simply the person that he was going to be, where regular season mattered and then postseason he just couldn't get it done. At the end of the day, what I found was that James Harden only has an 8% decline from his regular season stats, where he's averaging 24 points per game, to 19 points in the postseason. He's having an 8% fall off in his statistics, which is not the worst you could find. It's in line with Kobe and with Kobe's numbers. Some of the players that have obviously stood out in the playoffs are like the LeBron James. Kevin Durant has an amazing uptick in his percentage across the board when it comes to points per game in the playoffs. But I digress. The point I want to make is that perhaps we are putting too much pressure, giving James Harden too much credit as far as him being an amazing regular season player, with the playoffs just not doing it for him. And perhaps we should actually sit down and analyze that James Harden has actually been a pretty on par player. If it wasn't for miraculous games that he has had in regular seasons and some amazing games that he's had in the playoffs, he has been pretty typical with his gameplay. He has not shown me, and I might get some heat for this, he has not shown me that he can carry a team by himself to the promised land in the shape of winning a championship. The most success that he has had was when he has had a well-rounded team around him. Houston was one of the few small exceptions to that case, but even then, we saw him choke plenty of times in that Houston uniform. So like I said, maybe we take a pause and say James Harden is not just a Game 7 choke master, but James Harden is just getting a lot of attention for the type of quality player that he actually is. We are on the second round of the NBA playoffs. We are in the middle of NHL playoffs. JB and I are back because it is Thursday night. That means it is time for another episode of your Box Scores and Bourbon. Welcome back, JB.
Welcome back, Manny. So good to
Let's
see
start
you.
the episode off on the greatest of notes. Cheersing it in.
Cheers, my man.
Cheers.
Clink, clink.
So tell me, do you buy the hype that James Harden just doesn't know how to pull off Game 7s, or is it just that we expect James Harden to be this miraculous all-star player, and every time we see him on the court, he's actually kind of a normal kind of player?
I think that it comes down to just a lot of NBA players and the narrative around them. I mean, for so long, I mean, look at Jimmy Butler. We talked about Jimmy Butler's ability, the potential for him to be a leading man, a number one
Mm-hmm.
on the squad. And every time that he had the chance to be the leading man, he kind of fell flat, really mainly because of his attitude. And
Right.
now he's with Golden State. He's not the number one guy, but he's excelling. And James Harden, same type of career almost, where he's trying to go, even when he was in Philly, and he tried to present himself as the number one option in Philly, and that didn't work out too well. And he's he's bounced around like almost every other NBA player it seems nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it just comes down to the narrative built around him. When we look back on his younger days at OKC, it was him, Russ, and Durant, and then you're like, oh, look at this potential with these three guys. Each of these three could at least be a number one option on any team. And now look at all three of these guys. Neither one of them can be a number one option on any team. So, Kevin
Whoa, that
Durant's got you know, no leadership capability. Russ is too busy just trying to play ball, and James is too busy. Just I don't know. It seems like he's trying to be like Draymond Green. He's just trying to instigate stuff all the time, and
he
and
looks
like
for drama in every shape he can find it, whether that's fat suits or demanding trades from his eighth team or wants to be the tough guy on the court.
yeah,
He seems like he's embracing this like diva mentality.
yeah, and that's the difference between him and Draymond. Draymond hasn't left.
Yeah.
Draymond's been in the same spot for forever, and so it's not. And the difference is Draymond leaves all of the, I mean, for the most part, outside of his rants and raves off of the court, he leaves most of that drama on the court. Most of that stuff just between him and the refs. But Harden's different. Harden carries himself just like you said, like a diva, and and it's almost as if he wants to be treated as a as this player that he's not. I think that's where we as fans kind of look into this and we're like, oh, where's Beard at? Well, Beard's not here, so he's gone. So the regular season's over. You may as well just count them out. And that's probably our fault as fans because of just we've watched him for 15 years now.
Yeah,
So just
yeah.
being able to get to a spot now where we're just still stuck in those OKC days, and that's on us as
Yeah.
fans.
I mean, like I said, maybe we're setting the we're talking about gameplay. Maybe we're setting the bar a little too high for the quality of player that James Harden is, especially in the last 5 seasons. Between his journey, he's been with the Clippers for 2 years, I believe. He was
Hmm.
with the Nets and then Philly before that, something like that. The last 5 years, we keep spotlighting James Harden. I was like, oh my god, he's this point shot maker, point creator, like uh, offensive creator for the court, and he's just not shown that. And yet we keep giving him that attention. So maybe, as you said, maybe that's turning into, well, I'm getting the attention, so I'm gonna be that embrace that diva because that's gonna get me even more attention. Maybe that's what it's coming down to. But the the point that I was noticing is that I never heard the criticism of the Clippers choking and Kawhi Leonard being on that team with the Clippers that lost to Denver. I never heard criticism about that. Kawhi Leonard's supposed to be this miraculous game changer for any team that he touches, that he finds a way to bring them to championships, whether it was with San Antonio or where he went to Toronto and miraculously brought a championship to Toronto. Like, he was supposed to be that guy, and we're over here. Even me, I'm sitting here and bashing James Harden when he's supposed to be a role player. Kawhi Leonard was supposed to be the all star that leads that team to the promised land, and I have yet to hear anything about him getting any type of backlash for the way that his team, if you are the all star, it's your team, how his team performed, especially in this series against Denver. It just makes
Yeah.
it's unjustifiable. I think we need to give more of that judgment towards Kawhi because he's supposed to be that marquee player that's supposed to be running that team as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of questions that come up, um, not just with Harden as a player, but with the teams that have exited in the first round.
Yeah.
So, right now we're in the conference dimension, and so far we've got some great moments already, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone's still hating on the Knicks for even though they're up 2-0. Do I think the Knicks win the series? No, I don't.
What?
I don't think the Knicks win it. But to sit there and to say that, oh no, the Knicks just don't have it, it's just ludicrous. It's ridiculous. As NBA fans, you pined for series like this. You
Mm-hmm.
pined for two storied franchises like the Knicks and the Celtics to go head to head. And then when it happens, when the Knicks win, we trash them, and when they lose, we trash them. And so there's no happy point for just like your point when it came to the opening round. Every time the Pistons won, oh, cool, there's Detroit. Every time Knicks won, crickets, nothing. So there's never this due respect to the Knicks. But I want to talk about the teams that exited already.
Yeah.
So I want to get your thoughts on the teams that have already exited, and I want
Sure.
you to tell me where do they go from here? What is it that they're missing in order for them to potentially be back into the playoff limelight next season? So I'm going to start with the most obvious team, and that's the Lakers.
Oh, the Lakers are a hard one. I think I sat last episode. I was talking about the fact that if you look at the roster, nobody can really identify any player besides LeBron James, Luca, and maybe Reeves as like the marquee players. They don't have depth. I think they're in this denial phase, very similar to the Cowboys fans. And I leave it to me as a Cowboys fan to bring the conversation back to Cowboys every single time. But the Lakers very much mirror what the Cowboys do on a regular basis. They're like refusing to admit that they need to go through a rebuild because they have like a good player or two, and they just think they can go and buy players and they'll still be relevant. And sure, they're going to be relevant because you're the Lakers, but you don't have pieces to really like say you're a competitive team. LeBron is 40, 42. Like I don't know how, maybe he's been 40 years in the leagues, whatever. He's aging. And you're telling me that's going to be your marquee piece. I love the fact that they got Luca for a steal. I think this is the perfect opportunity for you to tell the for the Lakers to tell LeBron, hey, you know what? Like transition into the front office role. We need to rebuild around Luca. We need to get rid of all these pieces that we tried making work, and we're just gonna start from scratch. And you can have your fingerprint all over it in a front office formatting, but I don't see the Lakers being like a couple pieces short from making a deep playoff run. They just the way that they got demolished by the Timberwolves, it was not something that you say that they only got demolished because they had like one or two players missing. They need a lot of help. They don't have depth. They don't have bigs in the paint. They don't have anybody to protect the paint. If you're relying on LeBron and Luca for defense, you really only have LeBron for defense. Luca's never played defense, so you really have zero defensive presence on the Lakers roster, and you need that, and you need the depth factor as well because LeBron James can't play 48 minutes every single game. It's just not feasible for that to happen. So I think the Lakers are closer to being needing a rebuild than they are pieces from actually going into the playoffs. It's the reality behind the way that they looked overall.
Yeah, so when it comes to the rebuild, I'm with you. But doesn't it seem like we're in the same spot every offseason with the Lakers? It
Yeah,
seems like we're just doing this carousel of bringing in a new batch of LeBron's friends to come onto the court and hey, let's make this work. Hey, it worked in Miami. Let's make it work here. And for me, like the most glaring need they have is a big man. They need a
mm-hmm.
big. They have no five. They have no one to play at the five. Yeah, I mean,
Correct.
whatever opinion you have of Finney Smith or Jackson Hayes, you can admire them. You can be fans of them. They 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 have no business being the number one at the five for any NBA franchise.
Yeah,
None. They have zero.
they can't
So
play big ball, and in
and
this league, as crazy as it is, teams play big ball. Just look at the players that have won MVP the last 5 years. The bigs win MVP because the league is a big ball league currently.
yeah,
So they can't do that. They can't keep up with that.
I agree. It's and I keep going back to when they rejected the Mark Williams trade
Yeah.
because they were afraid of his injury history. You just trade. I will say this one blue in the face. You just traded for Luca. You just traded for Luca. You're gonna eventually have to pay him $400 million just to keep him there, and you're worried about injury history. That makes zero sense to me.
Yeah.
If you're that worried about him being injured, okay, well then pace his minutes then. But bring him in. You didn't have anybody. You traded your big, in order to bring Luca in, and then now you're just playing small ball. This isn't baseball. Okay, you can't just bunt down the third base line and then, oh look, we got a layup. That's not how basketball works. So just being able to it's just it's the most glaring issue is to
Hmm.
bring in a big. Okay, now I'm gonna go to Memphis. Okay, Memphis, of course, you know, got shut out by OKC. Um, what does Memphis need? Is the issue Ja? Is he the
Yeah.
issue in Memphis?
Yes. Memphis needs to get rid of their parasite. Ja is bringing only negative attention to Memphis. As much as they try to make a relevant team out of a small market team that they are, Ja continues to bring negative attention to a team that is trying to be relevant in the NBA. And they're not in a position where they can say like, well, the Western Conference is too stacked. Like it doesn't matter what we do, we can't keep up. The Western Conference is competitive. Just again, look at the rankings at the end of the regular season and realize the teams were jam packed together with 1-2 games separating them because the Western Conference is competitive in the fact that everybody's very close to each other. They need to get rid of. I don't like what Ja has done. As good of a player as you can possibly say that Ja Morant is, he's just brings so much negativity, so much drama. Like he instigates drama on his own doing because he just wants to. Like the things that he's doing are not that the type of things that you want a franchise to really build around, and you don't want that to be the image of your franchise. I don't care what they do on the court until they get rid of. I will die on this hill until they get rid of Ja because of the unprofessionalism and the negative culture that he brings to that locker room. They have no business trying to build a roster that's going to compete in the playoffs. It's that simple to me.
Okay, yeah, I, yeah. This is a hole that Ja dug himself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
look, a year, 2 years ago, this was like, oh, this is Ja being Ja. Now this is getting on the verge of like, is this another Kyrie situation? Is he just turning into this nut job that we thought Kyrie Irving was going to become, and
Mm-hmm.
then Kyrie end up just becoming this really sweet role player for Dallas?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't. I'm not necessarily going to go there, but it's such a distraction on the court when your star player it has these antics off, and then even on the court, his interactions with fans. I mean, that's just it takes away from the game plan. It takes the other his other teammates out of the game. And it's too much of a distraction.
Yeah.
Um, you talked about the Clippers already.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to say any more about the Clips.
The Clippers are old. They keep trying to do the Lakers way of bringing in like established players, and their roster's old. I think they have one player that's younger than 30 years old, and they just they. I've beat that horse dead until the limbs fall off. They're
Mhm.
too old to be competitive, especially in the way that the league is running right now. They're
Yeah.
assist, the league is running in a systematic way where they don't necessarily have marquee players. They have systems, and the Clippers just don't have that. They don't have really anything to latch onto. They need to get rid of
Yeah.
their old roster.
Yeah. I'm with you on there. I when I look at the Clips site, no, look, it's exciting for the Clippers to be where they are now
Hmm.
instead of the perennial lovable losers of LA. When
Yeah.
for every year when you talked about basketball in LA, you knew you were talking about the Lakers, you weren't talking about the Clippers. The Clippers never did anything. The
Hmm.
Clippers seem to find themselves in the playoffs perennially, which is a good thing, which is a big step up from, like I said, just even 10 years ago when they the franchise was on the side of a milk carton. But it is too old. It's too
Yeah.
old. It's too slow. I think they. they get wrapped up in this sense that, oh, we're also LA, so we can bring in stars too. No, what you need to do is just accept the fact that one, you're the inferior LA team, and looking at the cliff that the Lakers may be on, you need to be able to start setting yourself up for success. So where maybe you can be the star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame,
Yep.
compared to the Lakers. You can
Mm-hmm.
be, the big man on campus in
Yep.
LA when you talk about NBA basketball, but they're not going to get there this way.
No. You know
Um,
what? The simplest way I'll put it with the LA teams, whichever team between the Lakers and the Clippers embraces the fact that they need to go through a rebuild first, whichever team starts that process first will be the one that's the most successful because they both need it.
yeah. Okay, so we go from the last Western Conference team. We go from a team that's really old to a team that's really young, Houston.
Mm-hmm.
What is Houston, in your opinion? What do they need in order for them to reach that next level?
I'm actually excited about Houston because I'm excited for two players that I feel like they need to make the same trade offer for or try bringing in, and either one of them will be so good for that team. One, Kevin Durant with the Houston Rockets seems like it would make a lot of sense. Like you mentioned, Kevin Durant has not been a vocal leader. The Houston Rockets have established this like organizational climate where it's not about a single player, it's about what you do on the court and you guys all work together. That seems like the perfect type of situation for Kevin Durant to step into as a play maker or the general on the court that leads an offense. And let's not forget Kevin Durant has pretty damn good defense and he can be that veteran presence on a young team as they find their way, similar to how OKC was finding the way last year. Houston is on that same doorstep. Bringing in Kevin Durant as the requirement of, you know what, just show that, teach them how to lead on the court and play well without you necessarily having to be the voice for the franchise seems to be very well fitting for that. The other player that I feel like they should call about is Giannis. Giannis seems like he's on his way out from Milwaukee. I feel like if they brought Giannis into that team, they would instantly be favorites to make the conference championship. They Giannis by himself has shown that he can carry a team to that
Mm-hmm.
level. Putting him in that type of environment where there's young players, where there's a lot of drive. Giannis has like a very young mentality. He still has a lot of energy. He's not an old player. He brings a lot of energy. He brings a lot of passion to the way he plays, and he's a great off-court leader. So depends on the type of leadership that Houston really wants to embrace, whether it's the silent leadership from Kevin Durant or the very vocal leadership from Giannis. Both of those players feel to me like they would fit so well with what Houston is building.
Yeah, I have cons to both of those. So my con to Kevin Durant is, so Kevin's not a big personality, and yeah, I can see the fact that if they brought Durant in, then it would give the opportunity for Amen Thompson to grow into being the leader of
Mm-hmm.
that squad. Um, and but at this point Kevin's career, I Kevin seems very content with just playing his game and then nothing else outside of that. So, and what I mean by that is being able to listen to those around him saying, "Hey Kevin, we need you to do this. We need this from you." And I'm not saying Kevin is, not inclined to being a teachable, especially this late in his career. And hopefully that's what would trigger him to be more teachable, to be more of just that much of a team player, knowing how old he is now and how late in the twilight of his career that he's in. Um, I will say I like the idea of Durant in Houston more than I like the idea of Giannis in Houston, not because of what Giannis couldn't do to that roster, but it's going to take a hell of a lot to get Giannis in Houston, and
Why?
that's probably going to cost Amen Thompson. That's going to cost um, uh, uh, Jalen Green. Maybe even throw Jabari Smith in there, hoping you can unlock some potential in him in Milwaukee. but like there's like it's going to cost quite the haul.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever's going to get Giannis to bring him in, and what I don't want to see, as great of a wet dream as it is to have Giannis in Houston, you have to remember the other side of it. If Giannis is in Houston, where's the rest of the players? Because
Right.
Milwaukee's not going to just give rid of Giannis as charity, unless Nico Harrison gets hired as a GM and he's just giving Giannis away. I don't think that this is going to be one of those instances where another franchise is just going to give away one of the top five players in the NBA in order to get a receipt so they can claim it on their taxes next year. This is it. So for me, if I have to choose between the two, I'm thinking, okay, well, let's see what we can get out of KD, because at least with KD we can keep the pieces here, and we still have the ammo to still bring in an influx of youth into the franchise. Hopefully, trying to and then even just bring in some more players.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, Giannis in Houston sounds great, but um, you know,
Here,
just
here's the
saying
thing with
amen to
Giannis.
amen at that point.
Here, but here's the thing with Giannis and the Houston Rockets. So the luxury that the Houston Rockets have right now is that they've built that team through the draft. They haven't brought in like free agent, expensive free agent players. They've actually through the last few years they got rid of a lot of their players to stock up on draft picks. I'm looking at their future draft picks. They have a whole lot of ones, a whole lot of twos for between 2026 and 2027. They have a few first round picks. You're telling me you can't tempt Milwaukee that's missing a lot of pieces with a couple of first rounders, a first rounder, a couple of second rounders to get rid of Giannis that doesn't want to be there and exchange Giannis or Milwaukee gets to rebuild through the draft.
I mean, look, but okay, so I hear you, but look at the haul that the Pelicans brought in just for trading AD to LA. It was Ingram, it was Hart, it was the number one pick, which ended up being Zion Williamson. There were so many, and, where AD was in his career, then Giannis is just levels above it,
Yeah.
levels above it. So it's not as if Milwaukee won't be tempted with picks, but Milwaukee's going to want to bring in some young pieces too. And I'm just and unless Houston wants to mortgage, Houston's going to have to mortgage the future one way or the other. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
have to get rid of uh, Thompson and and Green, and then also at the very least on the player side, and then they're going to have to give up at least four, maybe five first round picks in order just to be able to get Milwaukee to the table. So
Players
either
and five
way,
first round picks?
dude, it's gonna. If I'm Milwaukee, Giannis has what 2 years left on his deal. Two
Mm-hmm.
years. If I'm Milwaukee, that's my starting point. That's my
Dang.
starting point. You are telling the league, hey, I'm willing to trade to you one of the top five players in the game today. Today. And but if you want him, you're going to have to pay a hefty price for it. And I don't blame them for it. Milwaukee is one of those rare small market franchises that has done nothing but go above and beyond, and just thrown the wallet away when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to bringing in guys and giving guys contracts in order to help Giannis win another ring. So Milwaukee's not afraid to spend, and so it's not as if Milwaukee's going to sit here and try to pussyfoot this. No, Milwaukee knows what it can do. Milwaukee's not afraid to go bring in pieces, but Milwaukee also understands that if we want to build something toward the level of where we have it now, or even back a few years ago when they took home the ring, they're going to need to bring in some young players, and they're going to need to bring in some picks. That
Yeah.
needs to happen.
I mean, the last caveat that we're kind of talking past or ignoring is the fact that Giannis has to want to go somewhere. He has to want to leave Milwaukee, and maybe I mean, this is all rumors, I guess, that he's gonna want to ask for a trade this offseason. But maybe he likes Milwaukee, and every conversation that we're having is a mute point because he wants to stay and he wants to see Milwaukee build
And
around
that's
him.
true. That's true.
And
But
it
I
could
mean,
be
it's
that
been
simple.
said he wants to go to LA, he wants to go to
Hmm.
New York, he wants to go to Miami. And unless there's another Miami team I don't know about, that means the Heat, that means the Knicks, and it definitely doesn't mean the Clippers. So these are the three teams that he wants to go to. He can sit there and say LA, New York, and Miami all he wants. We know he means the Heat, the Knicks, the Lakers. That's it.
Maybe
That's
he
it.
wants to play with Kawhi. Maybe you're not giving the Clippers enough credit. He wants to play with Kawhi.
Maybe he does, but we just talked about the Clips being too old.
Yeah,
Why would
I know.
why would Giannis want to go from a team that's too old to a team that's too old? Because you know
Yeah,
all the players leaving the Clips are going to be the young guys.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the only thing I could say is if he wanted to, for some reason, go to the Clippers, is because he trusts the fact that between him and Kawhi, they can do miraculous things and carry that team because that's about all they're gonna have.
Yeah, and I'm not saying to your point. I mean, the Lakers are also old, but it's the Lakers.
Yeah,
It's
maybe he
it's
wants
the
to play.
purple and gold.
Maybe
I
he'll
mean,
want
this
to play
is
with those players. Who knows?
so okay.
Next,
Let's do. So we just talked about Giannis. Um, let's shift over to Milwaukee,
I don't
and I think we
know.
know the answer there. Milwaukee needs to trade Giannis. The
Yeah,
end.
it feels like that's the path that they need to go down. They got their championship with him. They tried the Damian Lillard experiment with him. It's just I'm not from what we're seeing. Damian Lillard is out next year. Like they don't really have depth. I think again those first round exit teams are closer to rebuilds than they are to being competing for a championship. They might just need a rebuild and get rid of Giannis and just try figuring out a different way forward.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. No sense beating a dead horse. Let's go to
Yep.
Miami. Let's go to one of the rumored destinations for Giannis, or at least a rumored destination of where he wants to go.
Hmm.
Um, what does Miami need to do? I mean, we know they
I mean,
need a
just
star. They don't have a star.
that is the problem. They don't have a star, but they don't also have young talent. They everything that they've. I'll give credit to their coaching because I feel like Miami for the last few years has had no business being where they've been in the playoffs. Where there was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, making the finals, making a conference championship. Like I feel like they're just like the surprise team that refuses to like die or fall or really acknowledge where they are. It just again, I mean, I'm getting repetitive. They just seem like they just need to rebuild and find something to build around. If that's Giannis, fine, but it just doesn't sit well that I don't think they have enough additional pieces around Miami to really. I don't think Giannis would be in a better position in Miami next year than he would be with Milwaukee. It very much seems like the same situation. And if he wants to play in Miami because he likes sunny beaches, fine. You can like say, I just want to be in Miami. I don't care about the team aspect of it. But it just doesn't seem like he would be in a better position being in that team compared to where he is right now.
And who you're talking about Giannis going to Miami?
Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean Miami's not. They're not old, but they're also not stacked with this unbelievable amount of young talent either. And
Mm-mm.
so you would have Giannis going to a squad that's and that's where he wants to go. That's where he wants to go. And if that's
Yep.
the best package that Milwaukee can receive, then okay, great. Milwaukee can figure it out, but I mean, or Miami can figure it out. Excuse me, but but it honestly doesn't seem like we have to remember Miami was a 10 seed. Okay, they traded a star. I can't really place his name right now. But you know we all know who it is. But they traded away a star. They were the 10 seed, end up becoming the 8 seed, and then getting slaughtered by Cleveland, of course. But you can never discount Eric Spoelstra's ability to
Mm-hmm.
draw out the most out of what he has on a roster. And maybe that's something that actually is appealing to Giannis. Maybe going to a franchise where uh, you look at, okay, so if you look at the Heat, you look at the Knicks, you look at the Lakers, the level of stability is rated very high in Miami. It's starting to look on the up and up with New York if Tommy T stays there on the sidelines. And
Mm-hmm.
then, LeBron is always going to hold the strings when it comes to who's going to coach that team. And who knows how long LeBron's going to play. Now, the appeal for the Lakers is he may want to play with LeBron. I don't know. But it could be the fact that, hey, Spoelstra's been there, what, 15 years now? He is officially now the longest tenured head coach in the NBA now that Pop is retired. So
Yep.
this is an opportunity for him to go somewhere where there is stability, and he knows that there's not going to be a revolving door of coaches because Spoelstra's not going anywhere. He's not.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that might be the appeal to him.
You know what? The only thing I have a problem with, Miami's always this like rumored destination for all teams. I don't know if Miami has this like mentality like, well, we're Miami. Everybody wants to come here. Like we don't have to try. We don't have to send a whole lot of picks or assets to get that player because that player wants to be here. This is the conversation that we had. Jimmy Butler worked out. He ended up going to Miami. I believe the rumor was that Damian Lillard wanted to be in Miami, and they wanted to give a couple crackers and some cheese to trade for him because they're Miami. I'm not too sold on Miami just being like, well, we're Miami. We can. Everybody wants to play for us, and we don't have to really play the game to get those players to us. So that's my only issue with them. They just seem like
Mhm.
they're almost acting too entitled every time there's a player that wants to go there, and they don't want to put in the work to bring that player to them. They just want to the player they want to get everything gifted to them because they are who they are.
Yeah. Um, last two teams, um, Detroit and Orlando. Where do you want to start?
I'll I'll start with the Pistons because I want you to give your 2 cents on my the Magic. You've been sold on the Orlando a little bit longer, or you period been sold on Orlando more than I have been. The
Mhm.
Pistons, if Houston, if going back to the Houston conversation, really, I guess there's three teams that we talked about. If the Houston gets either Kevin Durant or Giannis, the Pistons maybe want to try getting the other player. But I wouldn't necessarily. It's like a fragile like doll that you just bought. Like just put it on a put it on a shelf somewhere. Don't touch it. Let it look pretty for a long time because it looks really good where it's at right now. That's how I am about the Pistons. And again, Pistons came out of nowhere when they came to what they were gonna do. Cunningham, I guess I didn't give him enough respect for the type of player he was gonna be because I guess I never followed his career in college in Oklahoma State. They seem like they have a whole lot of good young pieces, and they just need to let those pieces figure out how to work together. If you really wanted a veteran piece, something like Giannis would work really well with them. But I don't. I feel like it would be better off if they didn't get any of those players because they should figure out what that team is going to look like, how that team is going to mesh before trying to add all these external sources to kind of like
Mhm.
quick trigger the build. They you don't want to move too fast and think that you're like right on the doorstep and then kind of blow things up and get rid of pieces going to the point that you've made about Houston that they would have to salvage their future in one way or another. I don't think you want if you're the Pistons, I don't think you want to take that same path and give up your future just to kind of quick start your team's rebuild. I think you just want to leave it as is. Let those guys figure out how they're going to play together. They looked really well this year. They looked really good this year. They gave the Knicks a good run for their money in the playoffs. I think next year they'll be right where they were this year, and I think they'll be a little bit more competitive than where they ended up finishing in the first round. If they leave things where they are, I wouldn't be surprised to be talking about them round two this time next year.
Okay. Yeah. To briefly mention Orlando, this is this. I mean, this is I think we all thought, if you follow NBA basketball, you thought year three for Paolo Banchero was going to be the year he just exploded onto the scene, and he took a lot more shots than he had, in the previous two seasons, but his scoring efficiency was really low. He was 46% from the field, 73% from the free throw line. This is not, you know, to be below average in both of these categories does not bode well for anyone who wants to be considered an elite shooter. But Orlando's path to, you know, uh, continued success, because I'm very pleased with how Orlando has slowly started to build back up again. They're no longer the laughing stock of the NBA,
Hmm.
much like Detroit. So, and thank God for Detroit being there, because then Orlando would have been the worst team. But it's one of those where, like, where Paolo goes, Orlando's going to follow. And if Paolo can, and I wonder if, you know, um, I don't know if, Anthony Parker, the GM for Orlando. I don't know what his plans are for this offseason. I don't know what he's going to do in order to, maybe he goes out and he brings in an older shooter, an older type sharpshooter, in order to help Paolo kind of reel it in and to know, hey, don't be afraid to take shots, but be more, but just be calmer in your selection of them. And so, it, that might be something on the table for them, in order for them to bring in some sort of a mentor for him to be in the court, some guy off the bench. But like I said, where Paolo goes, Orlando's going to follow, and this is going to be a big step too, because this is going to be year four, and year one and year two are very promising. Um, I think if you had to bring out a silver lining for this season for Orlando, it's that Paolo took all the shots that he took. He wasn't afraid to shoot, and because too often in the NBA now, I feel like it's just, let's just pass the ball, and there's very few guys who are just going to take all the shots. But Paolo's not afraid to take the shot. He's not afraid to take the game in his hands, and have him be the deciding factor of it all. But and if he can get just above average from the field or from the free throw line, or both, if he can get above average on both of those, Orlando could be a very, very surprising team next season.
Yeah, that's it for the teams that got eliminated in the first round. But you hinted at the conversation of this team slightly, but let's not let them off the hook too easily. We need to address the fact that the Celtics are down 2-0 to the Knicks and what that means for the Celtics as a whole. I have my thoughts as far as what's going on with the Celtics, but I'm curious to see if you have any thoughts about the current state of the Boston Celtics as a not even an underdog, but as the team that needs to win 4 out of the next what 6 games.
I mean, look, the Knicks are up 2-0. Boston's definitely dug themselves into a hole, much like Cleveland has. Uh, and if I'm a little iffy on either Boston or Cleveland, I'm more iffy on Cleveland being able to pull this off now that Indiana has a two-game lead, in a 2-0 series lead.
Mm-hmm.
Boston, I'm not so worried about, just because it seems like Boston gave the games away. Boston
Yeah,
gave these games away.
yeah,
It's
you're up by
not.
20 twice. You obviously you gave the
Yeah,
games away.
it's
That's
so, like, Boston. I, they're not incapable of putting a game away. They're not. And I know I caught heat on this. I got flack. There's still some shrapnel on my shoulder from last year when I said Boston plays like absolute garbage in front of their home fans. But like it or not, they do. I have not seen a team who's so. Boston on paper is the most loaded squad, right, maybe next to OKC. They are loaded. This team has, there is no excuse for Boston to even lose a game in the playoffs. That's how
yeah.
loaded they are. But for them to play like they did the first two games against New York in Boston is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Now, but with that, I I can see Missoula really just hyping up his guys, saying, "Look, we got to get it together." And I will say this: if Boston somehow loses the conference semis to the Knicks, Missoula's out. He's gone.
Wow.
He's
Two
there.
years in. 2 years in, and he's gonna be out.
There is no reason, none, none whatsoever. And you know what? I love putting the blame on Jason Tatum
Yeah.
because Jason Tatum in Game One tried to be the guy who could win it for him, and we all know that. Okay, well maybe he's just not that guy. He can be sometimes, but he's not that guy every night. Okay, you can't just get the ball to Jason and say, "Hey, win the game for us." So this is well, at least not. I mean, not consistently. You can't. We all
Right.
saw it.
Yep.
So it's. Uh, I mean, and Tatum's he's a phenomenal talent, a phenomenal talent. But for Boston, the organization to try to make Jason Tatum into something that he's not. He is not an alpha. He's not. He wants to play his game. He wants to be able to, uh, 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 kick out an assist to anybody that needs it, and so let him do that. But Boston as a squad, there's absolutely no reason why they should be down 2-0. None.
There's not. There's really. It's on it. I think there's something internally brewing with Boston as far as why they're in the position that they are. Um, I'll start off by saying the Knicks really. I'm not. It's surprising though that they came back from 20 down to win both of those games. But the Knicks have really been building their team to beat Boston, so it's not that surprising that it's happening. The way that it's happening is surprising, which leads me to my point. It seems like the Celtics have internal dilemmas happening, and they're coming to fruition in the way where it looks like the moment is too big for them. The mistakes that I saw in the last two games to end the games, they just are not typical of a team of that quality, especially the defending champions. Tatum driving to the basket to win the game and not knowing where his players are, not realizing that there's two defenders on him and
Mm-hmm.
chucking it into the arms, atypical of that squad. Game one, was it Brown that received the inbound pass that got it yanked away from him at the on the last shot? Atypical of the Celtics to make that type of mistakes.
Yeah.
It was it was a close game. They were in a position to possibly win the game. Game one, maybe not so much. They had to get a quick shot off, but they were down. They were up 20 points, third, fourth quarters in both of those games, and they just seem to collapse. Whether that's because they're like taking their foot off the pedal and they're just thinking they're good to go, and holy crap, like they're actually making a run. We're not that quick triggered to get back into the groove. That's one conversation to be had. On the other side, maybe it's just that the moment is too big because of everything else that's happening with the Celtics. You're the defending champions. The conversation already happened since last year that your roster was very expensive. Your team just got sold. There's new ownership in town. It might be the case where that ownership says that this roster is way too expensive. I don't want to be paying all these players, especially when I'm looking across the board. Houston has young players that they've built around a system instead of paying big players. OKC as a number one seed, they've built a system instead of building around players. Maybe the ownership is gonna want to do that, and maybe the weight of everything that they're seeing in the future is weighing to them. To add onto the fact that you're the defending champions and you're supposed to be like this marquee team, and you failed number one by securing the number one seed, and you're failing by closing out teams when you have your foot on their necks. Like maybe all this pressure is getting to them and it's coming to fruition in the way of mistakes that you just don't expect the Celtics to be making. I don't expect. I'm not a Celtics fan. I'm not a Knicks fan. But at the end of the day, I don't expect the Celtics to be making the type of mistakes that they're making. And the Knicks are just taking advantage of it. And they have, like I said, they've built a team to specifically beat the Celtics, and it's coming all together really well. And earlier on, you mentioned how you still think that the Celtics should win this series. The Knicks stealing two at the Celtics house, going back to their home to Madison Square Garden, being up 2-0, where you have the opportunity to go up 4 to win at home on a sweep. Like ultimately, your goal is to win your home games, and you have the perfect opportunity to do that if you're the Knicks. I would, if the Knicks don't win this series, I think it's a major disappointment because of the position that they're in. They stole
Mm-hmm.
two away games, and now they're home and they're defending home court advantage.
Yeah.
They're defending the home court. At the same time, I've seen this story before. I think
Yep.
Phoenix and Milwaukee
Yep.
where Milwaukee went back home, being down 2-0. They won 4 in a row. They ended
Yeah.
up winning the championship with Giannis against
Mm-hmm.
Phoenix that looked dominant during that period. Nothing is impossible, but just the way that the cards have lined up, where they stole two of the away games and now they're at home, it just seems like there would be no excuse for the Knicks to not win this series, and maybe not win both of their home games because I'm not expecting the Celtics to roll over. But if you split with them, you still have a great chance to make the conference final. I think they should have the expectation should be there's no reason for us to lose this series. That's the one thing that you mentioned earlier on that I'm like I don't necessarily agree with them because with the position the way that you've put yourself with the position you've put yourself in, the expectation is you're gonna win this series. In my opinion, it's the reality of the situation.
My expectation, given just how both of these teams are constructed, is that Boston still should win this series. Now, but I'm not, and I'm also not a Nick hater. I'm not. I love the Knicks. My favorite coach in the NBA is Tom Thibodeau. I love Tibbs. He is
Yep.
amazing, and I'm so excited that the Knicks decided to keep him on courtside. And but I also don't see a world where the Knicks don't win this series. I
Mm-hmm.
I give all credit to not only did Boston blow those leads, New York also stayed in the game. And the reason why I love Tom Thibodeau is he coaches with a way of just complete and utter physicality. And we they he was trashed last postseason for playing his players the whole game. Oh no, you're playing a basketball player 48 minutes a night, and he's gonna have 3 nights off. Oh no, oh my heart. Oh no, that's ridiculous. These are grown men who train to play the game they love. Why wouldn't they want to play the whole game? What kind of an athlete are you? What kind of a competitor are you? If you're going to sit there and say, "Oh, I only want to play 20 minutes," what are you, Anthony Richardson? You want to play the whole game. So, and Thibodeau, his philosophy is centered around physicality. And
Mm-hmm.
I will say this: if Mikal Bridges can continue to play at the physical level he's played thus far, New York will win this series.
Mm-hmm.
But in Boston, look, I'm not downgrading at all the whole Boston dug themselves. I'm looking at the rosters themselves. Boston is way too loaded, way too talented to just roll over and to even lose this series in 5 games. Hell, even in 6 games. It's too loaded. And maybe it is the curse of the champion. Maybe it's just because they're the defending champs, and we all talk about the curse. Okay, it happens, but it shouldn't happen this way. It shouldn't happen this way, where you have these leads in the first 2 games of the series at home, and you blow it.
Yeah.
That is it is inexcusable. But
Agreed.
and
That
so
part's agreed.
and so, but I also I live in reality. I can see a way New York wins this series. I think it'd be great if New York won this series. I think it would be fantastic for the NBA if the Knicks went to the finals. I think that would be something special. I think the NBA needs a team like the Knicks in the finals. You need
Yeah.
that nostalgia. You need the history. You need the sentimentality of just what it was like in the 80s, in the 90s. Like, you need the Knicks in the finals. You need them
Yep.
there. And so
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised one bit if they won. but I think it's even though they're up 2-0, I think the ball is still in New York's court to respond precisely as they've responded the first two games. You're going to
Sure.
go back to MSG. You better still respond with the same level of physicality. Show Boston what it means to feed on the home crowd because Boston needs to learn that lesson. They don't understand what it means to feed off the home crowd, obviously.
Yeah.
So show Boston what it means to feed off the home crowd.
Yep. Agreed. As far as to wrap up the bashing of the Celtics, as far as needs for the NBA, the last thing that needs to be added to that is that the NBA needs the finals to have 3 or 4 games in Madison Square Garden. That by
Yes.
itself is a great. Everything
Yeah.
about Madison Square Garden in the finals is music to every basketball fan's ears. The last 2 series, just to quick touch on them, the Pacers, they're here to stay. Halliburton is showing that he belongs in the playoffs. He belongs as an all-star player. He by himself has put the Cavaliers down to 2-0, and the Warriors are up 1-0 on the Timberwolves, but they've lost Steph Curry for at least one or maybe even
Yeah.
2 games, and we
And they're
have to
down
see
by
what that
19
offense
right
looks like.
now with 6 minutes left.
Yeah. So, I mean, I watched the Warriors game one, and after Curry left, they looked a little bit sluggish, like they didn't really know how their offense should be running. I don't expect it to be uh, either team's going to roll over, but I do think the Warriors are going to have to find a new identity real quick because that identity of the Warriors is let Curry cook, and if he's out, you need to find a new identity because we're not in the position where Butler is going to be the Butler's cooking
Yeah.
playoffs this year. It's
Yeah.
as much as you want to give Butler credit for how good he is in the playoffs, it's just that's not the way the Warriors work. So
Yeah.
we're
And
gonna put uh,
yeah.
an asterisk on that series because I'm not too confident on either side of that matchup. But those are the last 2 series that we haven't touched on. Moving on real quickly, JB, the other playoffs in place. I gotta say, NHL playoffs are on. They're quite the exciting
Heck yeah, they are.
playoffs this year.
Why are you
The
questioning
Jets,
this? Why is this
the
being
Jets.
questioned?
I'm like I watched the Jets score with what 3 seconds left in regulation and then come out and win Game 7 in overtime. Like that is just
Yeah.
some great quality sports content right there.
To put context on that Jets Blues series, this was round one for those who don't follow hockey or think you need a passport to watch it. The 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 Blues, they were the 8 seed, the Jets were the 1 seed. The Blues absolutely blew that series. They blew it. The Blues had every freaking opportunity to upset the Jets, and they just crapped themselves. And it was just that game seven was an instant classic.
Oh,
That
it's so
was
good,
that was such
so good.
that was such a phenomenal game. I don't care who won that game. That was a great game. That will go on in sports lore.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
that game seven series Amazon came out with, they better come out with a second season, and that game is in there. If the Jets
Yep.
end up winning the Stanley Cup, that game seven is going to be in just the annals of history. But um, but just going into um, just the second round, um, to me, there's just no way Toronto loses this series to Florida. Toronto just the Maple Leafs, they just seem just absolutely loaded. I mean, they have the defending champs on the rope on the so-called ropes right now. They're up 2-0. And the way Toronto's playing, I don't see them losing. I just don't. They are hands down the most dominant team in the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. And there's just
Are
no
you
stopping them. And
stamping it, JB? Are you
huh?
stamping Canada gets the NHL Stanley Cup this
I
year?
look, I am a red-blooded American. and Hank Hill
I know. Yes,
would
you
beat
are.
me down for sitting here rooting for Canada.
Might
But
take your citizenship away.
damn it, Canada needs to bring the Stanley Cup home. They need to do it. It
If
needs
it's
to
not this
happen.
year, let's put it this way. If it's not this year, when?
I thought it was going to be last year, and it
Yeah.
wasn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't. But man, Toronto, oh, they are on some tear right now. And it's not a fluke. You know, they're a two seed for a reason. They are absolutely loaded. And it's just, I have not had more fun tracking Stanley Cup playoffs uh, in years than I have this season. It has been absolute madness, and it is, you know, I just, I, I'm, I am pulling for more of just that game 7 between Winnipeg and St. Louis. I'm pulling for more of that, and honestly, like, I think we're gonna get it. I
Yeah.
think all the focus is on the NBA playoffs. But when you're watching a sport where the players are playing not just because they love the game, but they're playing for their fans. They're playing for not just the Stanley Cup also, but they're also playing for their home countries at the same time. There is so much pride in the Stanley Cup playoffs that it is so much fun to watch.
Oh
And
yeah.
and I get people like, oh, it's too long. It's 60 minutes long, and there's no halves. There's two intermissions. It's a Charlton Heston movie. Like I don't want to hear, all you sad sacks out there talking about how hockey's not fun to watch, how it's not a sport. We were all in middle school as young men. We all loved the dream of being able to get into a fist fight. You get to watch fist fights every night. Every night you watch a fist fight, and it's
Yep.
glorious. It's awesome. So
Yep.
I don't want to hear at all these people like, oh, it's too long, it's too boring. Because if
Yep.
you say that, you're not watching it.
Yeah.
You
You're just
need to
looking at the
watch it. And if
scoreboard.
I can give anyone out there, if I can plead to anyone to watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, I will give you one series to watch, and that is Toronto and Florida. Watch the Panthers and the Maple Leafs. Watch this series. Watch this series and tell me that you can't be romantic about hockey. Okay? Just watch it. Because it's not only a series that's on the line, it is also Canada with yet another opportunity to bring the Stanley Cup back to Canada. And you can be as American as you want to, but this is a Canadian sport, okay? We have to manufacture ice here in order to play. It's not snowing in Florida, all right? It doesn't snow there. You know where it does snow? Toronto,
Yep.
Vancouver, Montreal, okay? It snows there all the time. It's probably snowing
Yeah.
there right now, okay? Just watch the Maple Leafs, watch the Panther series, watch Nylander just go absolutely off on Bobrovsky. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, Bobrovsky is the Panthers' goal. So there you go. Okay, there's your little hint. So,
There you go.
but just um, it is uh, I'm very
It's a great
excited.
playoffs. It's a great
Yeah.
playoffs.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I enjoy the NHL playoffs more than I do the NBA playoffs,
Yeah. Yeah,
honestly.
we that's not a hidden secret. You are latching your wagon onto the Maple Leafs horse. I, for the rest of the playoffs, will be latching my wagon onto the Vegas Golden Knights horse wagon combination. I
Really?
don't know, something about Vegas. Since they were an established franchise and they made this miraculous run into the finals, that like if they would have won the finals to this day, I believe there'd be a magical documentary about their incredible like misfits of players that won the finals. Since then, I'm hooked on Vegas. They're up 2-0 right now in their matchup. I'm you're going for the Maple Leafs. I'm going to be cheering for the Golden Knights. And if somehow the stars align, maybe I know we'll have a great Stanley Cup Finals. But I'm hoping at least one of our teams is on there because they'll just give us way more content to talk about, and at least one of us will be excited about the about the matchup itself. But like you said, the Stanley Cup's playoffs, they just bring a whole nother level of energy. If you haven't watched any of the games, somehow you haven't come across your DirecTV or whatever platform you watch, go look for the NHL playoffs games live. They're just the energy is there, the aggressiveness is there, the scoring is there. You don't need. It's not like football where like if the offense has the ball at the end of the game, like you're done. Like you have to wait for a miracle. Like you always have a chance for your team to win the game with 3 seconds left in the period. Your team still has a chance to win, no matter what that looks like. Go watch a game. It's gonna give you everything that the NBA playoffs haven't won't necessarily give you. It's just it's a great play. The Stanley Cup pursuit for the Stanley Cup is just an awesome time to be watching sports. They bring so much excitement to the sports entertainment. I love it. I really do love it, JB.
Yeah, no, it's great. And just for those of you tracking at home, we are in the conference semis.
Mm-hmm.
There are 8 teams left. 3 of them are from Canada.
Yeah.
So Edmonton, Winnipeg, Toronto. All right. Just watch these series and just imagine the pride that you would have playing, not just for your own sake, but from where you come from. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just the NHL, unlike the NBA, and um, uh, PK Subban said it all. There is the stark contrast between the NHL and NBA is that there is a pride that the NHL players play with. There is no pride, almost no pride with the NBA. None. They are mercenaries, they are hired hands, they will go wherever, okay?
Yep.
But the NHL, they are playing for sport, for fan, for country.
Yep.
And it is just and it's just it is such a beautiful thing.
It's been 30 years since a Canadian team has won and hoisted the Stanley Cup. And if this they have a three-quarter opportunity to make it this year, it's a good year. I bet you the parade is going to be amazing. The whole country is
Mhm.
going to be celebrating if they bring in the Stanley Cup. I don't think they care which team brings it. They just want it to be back in Canada where
Yeah.
hockey, the home of hockey, it
Yeah.
truly is.
Yeah.
All
So,
right, JB. That's our soapbox of hockey.
yeah.
We hope we pass the message well enough.
Yeah. I know you guys wanted more breakdown, but look, watch hockey.
Yeah.
I know most of you guys probably aren't even watching it. Just watch it. Okay?
Yeah.
It is awesome. It's awesome.
We could sit here and break down like the game by game, the series by series, but if people aren't like diving headfirst into the series, is it going to mean anything? You know, JB sitting here and calling out player by player the dominance of specific players, like, is it really going to hit the point if you're not watching the series or you're watching the playoffs as a whole? We'll tell you the excitement behind the playoffs, and we'll tell you it's worth the watch. It really is worth the watch.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's close out with some MLB talk real quick. Um, so we talked about Aaron Judge last week.
Mm-hmm.
Newsflash, there's no newsflash. He's still on a tear. He's still
He's still
doing
really good.
Aaron Judge things, and
Yeah.
it is absolutely. He's batting 400, and it's not like he's batting 400 over the last week. He's batting 400 30 something games into the season. Like this is unreal. This is and as a Yankee fan, I want to hear from you. This again, how does this feel knowing that you have really 2 players upholding this entire team right now?
As a Yankees fan, in what are we in now? May? It feels pretty good. I will tread the cautious waters as I get excited about the Yankees. Aaron Judge is always gonna do Aaron Judge things. My standard, my expectation for Aaron Judge is not what are you gonna do in the regular season because you've shown me time and time again that you are so damn good at
Hmm.
regular season baseball. I want to see what you do in September, October baseball if you're in the October Classic. Like the the Yankees have recently found a really great way to win games. Who are they playing recently? The Padres.
The
They
Padres.
scored they scored 10 runs
Hmm.
or in the seventh inning. Like that's the type of stuff that just gives me hope for it, for what's to come. Again, like I said, I'll tread the cautious waters. The Yankees have a little bit of something that I'm gonna be cautious of when it comes to their defense, their offense. Aaron Judge. I'm glad that the here's the way that I'll put it. I'm glad that the Yankees are proving that Juan Soto leaving was not the demise of their offense. All their players have stepped up, and it's proven that it was not a it's Juan Soto or nothing situation for that offense. They're playing so well offensively. I want to see this carry through the peak of the season, go through the All Star break, and really carry that into September, October with the playoff push. Max Fried, we touched on this last week, so I'm not gonna harp on it too much. Max Fried is, as you said, everything that he was advertised to be. I
Hmm.
think he has a 1.01 ERA in 7 games that he's
Hmm.
gotten the start for. Like he is great. Garrett
Yeah.
Cole, like the fact that he Garrett Cole's out of the lineup broke my heart because I know that would have been an amazing pitching 1-2 punch. He's holding his own on the pitching stance. I all I'm waiting for is to see that defensive side of the Yankees ball to really like round themselves out and be well dominant on both sides of the ball. If the defense can figure out what they're doing, and not that they're awful, like they're not playing awful baseball, but there's still something missing. If they can bring it up to the level of what that offense looks like, man, I'm calling it now. A Dodgers Yankees rematch in the World Series looks kind of tasty. And again,
Yeah.
this is May 8th. I'm saying
Yeah.
Dodgers Yankees World Series is going to look very tasty if that's what happens.
Yeah. So we're talking about Aaron Judge and how phenomenal he has been to the start of this season, and he honestly could eclipse that 60 homer season that he had a
Mm-hmm.
few years ago, and this is going to be um uh just I think it's going to be a very special season for Aaron Judge. I think Aaron Judge is proving that it doesn't matter who's hitting in front or behind him, he's going to demolish you. And the
Yeah.
saddest part about it is that Aaron Judge is 33. If he hadn't lost those 4 or 5 years because of injury, imagine where he would be right now. But I want to
Yeah.
talk about kind of just five player slash team storylines right now. So we talk about Aaron Judge, how great he is. We forget, I think most people forget that Shohei Otani is still a human being on this planet,
I
and
don't think anybody forgets.
he's still producing at a just an exorbitant level. This dude is on pace for a 50-50 season. He's on pace for it. He's got 10 homers and 10 stolen bases. He's already done it.
Caveat casually on pace for it. It's not like it's getting a whole lot of
He's
attention. It's just
already
a
done it, and
casual.
he's on his way to do it again. He's on his way to do it again, and like no one's talking about it. No,
Yep.
because Aaron Judge is swallowing all the conversation, which makes sense. But
Yeah.
Shohei is on a roll. Corbin
Yep.
Carroll for the Diamondbacks, he's on pace for 30-50.
Mm-hmm.
And Corbin Carroll, and this is great for baseball. Corbin Carroll, when in 2023, was out of this world, and everyone was talking about his
Mm-hmm.
potential. Everyone was talking about how great he was going to be. And last year, it just all fell off a cliff. This year, he has found his rhythm, and I think he is going to stay at this level for the rest of the season because there's nothing that's screaming to me that there's going to be a fall off. Bobby Witt Jr., another guy, probably going to be a 30-50 guy. And also a big reason why the Royals are 9-1 in their last 10. And so, and you know what? If the Royals end up winning the division, which they won't because Detroit still exists, if the Royals end up winning the division, I will, of course, I'll eat my words because I said I don't really see what Kansas City's trying to do here. But if Kansas City can continue to build on this and call up Vinny Pascatino and to play the outfield to help the atrocious OPS of the Major League outfield right now, then this Royals team, it is, it is going to be a close race in the AL Central, and not a
Hmm.
close race in like, oh, one team might win 78 games, one might win 79. No, it's going to be a close race to whoever's going to win 88, 89 games, maybe
Hmm.
90. So this is going to be a close race. Um, then you have the Mariners. The Mariners, who were in last place 2 weeks ago, are now in first place. And oh, by the by, the A's are right behind them, 2 games back. I don't know what's going on in the AL
Check
West.
your stats. There's no way that's real.
Check it. Check it. It's real. The A's are 2 games back of the Mariners in the AL West right now. And it's not totally due to Houston and the Rangers being so bad. It's due to the A's actually playing competitive baseball. And
Yeah.
so it's incredible. We're almost the middle of May. The A's still have a winning record. So I didn't see this coming. This wasn't on my bingo card. But the
No.
Mariners, man, the Mariners, this is for years. We have talked about how great the pitching was for Seattle and how subpar the offense was. It is not that way this year. The
Hmm.
offense for Seattle is absolutely on fire. Julio Rodriguez, who everyone is still down on because he's not hitting for a high average, he's still producing power wise at the plate. I mean, he's not holding them back when it comes to the slugging percentage. And if Julio's hitting 228 right now, wait until he gets into his rhythm. Wait till that
Hmm.
happens. Because right now you have Julio Rodriguez who is contributing. You have J.P. Crawford who is hitting above his normal levels. You have Randy Arozarena who's hitting at a postseason level. So, and then the biggest surprise, maybe not to all, and it's not a surprise to me because I've seen this guy play for years. But Cal Rowley, the big dumper, he's tied with Aaron Judge for the home run lead. He's tied. He's tied. This is a catcher who perennially hits 200. He's tied with Aaron Judge.
Oh gosh. We are
So,
in the
and,
freaking. Oh yeah. The worlds are
yeah.
upside down if the A's are
Hmm.
are in second place and the catcher is lined up with Aaron Judge for the home run lead.
Yeah. And then my last take on this is Atlanta. Atlanta is 5.5 back of first place. They are
They're coming back.
slowly but surely creeping back up.
Yep.
I have said it until I'm
Hmm.
blue in the face. Everyone who counted the Braves as down and out when they were 1-8, I said, shut your pie hole, shove some pie in the pie hole, whatever you need to do, quit talking because the Braves are going to be a problem. And they're already proving to be one. They were
Hmm.
1-8 to start the season. They have since been 17-11 since that 1-8 start. So everyone buckle up. This NL East is not over. I don't care how great Pete Alonso's hitting. Pete Alonso's not going to hit 300 the rest of the season. It's not going to happen. That's not what Pete Alonso does. Okay? And at some point, Juan Soto's going to wake up from his coma and start playing competent baseball at some point. I don't know why they keep putting him in the outfield like he was like a legit gold glove contender. We all knew he wasn't. Why is he out there? But maybe New York will figure it out and say, okay, hey, why don't you just reel it in? Just be the DH. It's fine. Okay, just do that. But the Braves are a contender. They will be a problem. The Phillies still exist. Okay,
Hmm.
Bryce Harper's still an individual on this planet. So is Trey Turner. So is Kyle Schwarber. These are people that still exist in today's world. in the Lord's year 2025. So do not discount anything about where you thought your team was at the end of April because we're only a week into May. This is a long, long, long marathon. This is going to take some time to flesh out. And this is probably a real exciting time to be a baseball fan because it's extremely competitive right now. But Manny, I know you have some notes on the MLB. I know you have some takes that you'd like to share.
Oh man, JB, I have some like I guess you could call it some hot takes, starting with the fact that Tyler Callahan shattered his arm, forearm, wrist, and all of the bones in between it, and still couldn't get a dead ball. Like, can we, as the MLB kids, reassess the fact that if there's an injured player on the field, like maybe you don't give an inside the park home run for the offense? Let's be considerate for the fact that a player has shattered his arm trying to catch a foul ball, and let's give some, like I said, consideration for the fact that there's a player laying grimacing in pain. Also,
Disagree.
no, don't disagree with me. This man shattered his arm. If you saw the clip, I'm telling you, I would have stopped everything. I would have made everybody close their eyes.
No, no. You play the game. You play until the
It's a
whistle
foul
blows.
ball, JB. It's a foul ball. Technicalities of him touching the ball as he shattered his arm should not be means for an inside the park home run. Give me a break. The Rockies won 2 in a row a week ago, and the league proceeded to give them all a drug test because they were doing a little too good for reality's sake. So they decided that maybe there was a little something going on. So the Rockies got all tested up because maybe they were doping because they won 2 games in a row.
I think the
And
Rockies said. I think the Rockies have since compromised since they've lost 6 in a row since then. So I think
yeah,
they're
they're
like,
like,
hey, we'll
well,
just go back on our regular losing streak. Yeah.
let's reel it back, maybe like cut the doping in half because we can't win too many games. We're still chasing the White Sox record of most losses in a season. And the last thing that I want to talk about, I already mentioned partially. Max Fried looks dominant. 7 games. He has. Let me pull up his stats. 7 games started. He's 6-0, 1.1 ERA, 44 innings played, and 39 strikeouts. With a .94 WHIP. I'm gonna end my takes on baseball by saying, gosh darn it, Max Fried, I don't know why I wasn't giving you more attention, but you are a saving grace for the Yankees pitching lineup. He is doing miraculous things, and I am excited for what he's going to bring to this Yankees offense because he's here for a while. It's not like he's on a loner. They locked him up. If he's going to be like this as a pitcher for the next 5-6 years, I am all here for it. So those were my major takeaways so far from baseball, JB.
Yeah. Um. I we need to start talking about just how bad the Rockies are. It is it's criminal.
We have been though. We acknowledge the fact that
but
the reality.
we have been, but it's criminal how we destroyed the White Sox last season for being
Yep.
so bad. The Rockies are on pace to be 31 and 131. 10
Yeah,
games
that's a record.
worse than the White Sox. This is so bad. Why is this happening? And why are the games in Denver not free? Why are people still paying to go see this team?
I'm not too sure they are anymore.
I don't know if they are or not, but
The 20 people that have been in the stadiums may not be getting in at a cost. They might be they might be free entry for whoever wants to come to the game. But yeah, the you know what? You're a traditionalist. By all manners, you are a traditionalist in the sports world. And I know you remember that the era of the Rockies actually being good. I don't remember that time. But even for my standards,
born yet.
yeah. They have blown my subpar standards for the Rockies baseball out of the water because this is I can't even hate on the White Sox right now. Like the Rockies are doing everything they can to make me stop talking about the White Sox. They're trying their hardest to lose as many games as possible. It's we can have this conversation another time. this goes back to the cap floor, the cap room that teams are putting into their rosters and what that means for the actual entertainment factor. Because this is not to not put it lightly, because I have no reason to. This is disgusting. It really is disgusting to watch that level of baseball happening in Denver, a great place to watch
Yeah.
baseball. Have you know?
And there was a time when the Rockies had Larry Walker, Dante Bichette, Vinny Castillo, Todd Helton. This was a monster offense. This was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And then one year, they signed the top two free agent pitchers. They brought in Denny Nagel and Mike Hampton. I know those names mean nothing to you because you were still sucking on your mama's teeth, but that was a big off season. And Mike Hampton was more than a pitcher. That dude was a slugger. He could hit. He was the poor man's Tim McGraw because I don't think he could play guitar, but he could absolutely throw a fastball and hit and jack one out of the park. It was the Rockies were something special. They were
Yeah,
something special
they're
back in
not
the
no
day.
flash breaking news. They're no longer that you remember the Rockies to be.
Wait till they go on a 20-game winning streak. Just wait.
Yeah, I'll hold my breath until then, JB.
Just wait. All right. We are done for tonight, folks. Thanks for joining us. Um, Mandy, where can they find us?
They can find us everywhere, JB. We are on every single social media platform you could possibly think of. We are on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok by looking up BSB Sports 24. You can listen to full episodes on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, every other, I think I'm missing one, but every other audio listening device. You can look up Box Scores and Bourbon, and you find every single episode for the last year and a half. You can listen to all our bantering and our crazy takes from this sports world, JB.
Yes. Manny, what were you drinking tonight?
JB, I forgot that I had bought in this Texas bourbon, and I don't know why I forgot because it was so good, and I filled a couple glasses of it, and it was very pleasant to the taste. Drink it to your pleasure, neat, not on the rocks, not diluted, and it still hit the spot. JB, what did you drink? What did you smoke?
Drinking this Old Forester bourbon,
Mm.
1897, bottled in bond, 100 proof. Uh, Anyone who listens to this pod knows for me, the higher the proof, the smoother it is.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't want this 80, 90 crap. Okay? 100 is the baseline. That's where it's got to start. And then I was smoking an Oliva Serie V Lancero tonight. I'm a big fan of Lanceros. I'm usually a big Robusto guy, one with the big gauge. But I also enjoy a good Lancero from time to time. All right, Manny.
All right. Well, until next time, everyone, cheers to the fact that JB has a Chicago sports fan Pope. We will see you
Yes.
next week. We will
Hey,
see you next week.
Chicago produced the first American Pope before the Bears produced a 4,000-yard quarterback. There we go.
They sure
Boom.
did.
Done.
Congratulations. Congratulations to Chicago. They have something to cheer for. Cheers, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Stay thirsty.